Good morning, gang. Hope you all doing well. Happy Father's Day to the dads who see this. Won't keep you very long because it's Father's Day, right? And I've got kids, so I want to go over something. I want to talk about warm up routines. A lot of folks have been asking me in my TikTok account, which is Access to Coach. It's one word. And why are my races different than my warm ups? Why am I not executing races the same way I do in warm ups and so and workouts, right? It's a valid question. It's a good question. So I just want to give some insight into this. Let me ask a couple questions. Multi Kenny. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Father's Day. Are your warm up routines the same on workout day as they are on race day? Okay. Let's use cross country as an example because it's the next season coming up. Right. What do you normally do? Is it normally you do a warm up jog and then you stretch and then you do drills or strides or whatever you do and then you get ready to race? Put your spikes on and whatnot. If that's the case, does anything change when the weather cools off? Because in cross country, the weather gets colder, not the other way around during the season, right? In outdoor track, the weather gets warmer as the season progresses. And indoor, obviously, there's no weather interrupting at all. You're dealing with breathing and more turns and so on. You're dealing with a different element there, right? So, what is your warm up routine? Anybody, and you can put it in the comments here, folks. Okay, hello to everybody that's here. And I'm asking this from coaches and athletes because mine has evolved over the last 25 years. Okay. And I met somebody who was a legend at my high school, Tom Nohilly. He's the coach now for Atlanta Elite Track Club. World class coach. He was also a world class runner. I met him at Penn Relays and he was doing a rope stretch. I said, "What is this?" And so on and so forth. So he said, "Active isolated flexibility." And he got certified by Jim and Phil Wharton, who are the pioneers of this stuff. And then I was hooked. I had to learn. And because I used to have a lot of problems with Charlie horses in my calves and my hamstrings, right? And it drove me nuts. Once I learned about this stuff, I I got hooked and I had to get certified. I got certified by Jim and Phil Wharton at La Palestra in New York City. And I've been doing it ever since for the last, I mean, I got certified in 1998. So we're going on like 26 years, 27 years now. And it's been a godsend. As a former competitive runner and a coach and a longtime martial artist, this right here has helped tremendously in everything that I do. And I have worked with so many people from athletes, professional athletes, to bankers, to judges, to construction workers. This stuff is a complete game changer. It's a life changer. Okay. And I've got videos on this channel that take you through a full routine of active isolation. It's actively isolating one area at a time. So you're not irritating other areas of the body. So you're not having to lean over a car, lean over something, a chair to stretch your hamstring and irritate your back. You're not standing there pushing against the wall trying to stretch your calf, stressing your Achilles, and so on and so forth. It's completely different. Okay. And when I mentioned sequence, okay, the sequence is important because, right, if you, let's just say you do a warm up jog, and you folks let me know in the comments too. What type of warm up routine do you follow? Because I hear a lot of folks who they'll do a warm up jog, whatever it might be, right, and then they stretch and then do your drill strides and so on and so forth, right, and then they get ready to race. Okay, if you're warming up and then you're going to do a static stretch, if you're doing static stretching, that can start to create little mini micro tears in the muscle. Okay, and sitting there, and while the weather's cooling off, it could be counterproductive. And then you're going to try to fire them up again by doing drills and some fast strides before you race. It could help. It could help. It could hurt also. So I wanted to give you an alternative routine to consider. Okay, and the sequence is important. Okay, the first thing is an active stretch first, and then you warm up. Okay, and then your drills, your strides, and then you race. Okay. If you think about it this way too, on workout day, generally there's a shorter gap between your warm up, right? You gotta get your stuff ready, get your stretch, and do your drills and strides, and get ready to practice, right? Get ready to do your workout. There's a much shorter gap between a workout and the warm up than there is on race day than a warm up. It's kind of strange, right? There's some consistency. So one of the things that I've been working on for the last 2 decades plus as a coach is getting that consistency in the warm up routine. Okay, and it can go a long way. And again, when it comes to a run, when it comes to a race, especially a run, let's just say you're going to go run a 10-mile run or whatever it might be. Do you would you rather feel good coming out the door, right out the gate, or would you need 3 to 4 miles just to start to feel loose and normal before you start to feel better into the run? Would you rather feel like blah for a third of the run, or would you rather avoid that and feel good for the whole run? And that's the difference in the stretch routine. Okay, and again, take a look at it on this channel. And if you have questions, my email is blackbeltrunningcoach@gmail.com. Okay. Again, blackbeltrunningcoach@gmail.com is my email. Okay. So again, active stretch first, then your warm up, then your drill strides, and then your workout or race. I encourage you to try this routine. Consider it. And right now is a good time to start doing this in the summer. We can get used to it because in cross country, and the difference between cross country and track is once you're ready to go with the race, you know exactly what time you're going to race. And there's usually not long delays in cross country season like there might be in track when you have 20 heats of an event. Right? Let's just say you're going to run a mile of 800 meters at track. Your warm up is different, right? And sometimes there's a longer gap between your warm up and the race. Okay, so keep in mind, I want to put the warm up closer to the race and not further away from it. Okay, and think about it this way too. Sometimes you're on a track meet where the heats go fastest to slowest, and then the next time you're on a track meet, it's slowest to fastest. How do you combat that, right? And an active flexibility routine keeps the body warm, keeps the blood circulating, keeps the muscle going, right? And the warm up routine helps you take advantage of the active stretch routine, and then a dynamic drills and dynamic whatever you need to do movements for your race. Okay, so it's a completely different environment in track than it is in cross country. But going back to this is where I encourage you to be consistent. A warm up routine should be similar on workout day, run day, and it is on race day. Okay, far often do I see, and I keep in mind too, like I said, the weather gets cooler in the cross country season, so you want to make sure that your body's warmed up always. Your legs are loose, so you need to warm up. I would encourage you to warm up in pants, right? Jacket. Be warm. Keep the body warm. Keep the blood flowing properly. Okay. If you need to wear hat and gloves and so on and so forth, because in cross country, most of the time too, you're stretching outside a lot. Okay. If you have a tent, if you have the ability to have that, okay. But a lot of folks are stretching outside, you're definitely warming up outside. So you want to put yourself in a position to take advantage of this stuff and to maximize your ability to prepare for your race and even your warm up and even your workout. So if anybody has any questions, again, put them in the comments here. I want to make sure that this makes sense. If it does, please let me know, Multi-Candy. Anybody else that might be in here. Let me know if this makes sense. Okay? The warm-up routine, is it the same on workout day than it is on race day? I find the gap between warm-up and race is so much bigger than it is on between warm-up and workout. I find it fascinating and interesting, but this is an area where we can tighten things up and get better, right? Keep the body warm, keep the muscles fired up before you get on the track, before you get on the course, before you get on the hills, whatever you're going to do. Okay, you're firing on all cylinders here. So the sequence in which you warm up is really, really important, right? So again, let me know if this makes sense, folks. And if you have questions about this, put them right in the comments. Okay, hello, good morning, everybody. And if anybody in here that's a dad, happy Father's Day. Okay, I wanted to get this out to you. I wanted to stay consistent by going live on every Sunday. So, warm-up routine. Again, that's what I'm talking about today. Whether it's cross country or track. So Multi-Candy says, you notice when a warm-up routine in cross country is more effective than when we get to the track. The timing, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. The timing, because in cross country, you know exactly when you're going to race, right? And track could be different. You could be heat 12 of 26 in the 800. You just don't know. And like coming from New York City, coming like the Lachlan games, the Hispanic games, are these some of these big meets. This isn't like pin relays or Milrose games where there's 1 or 2 heats of an event and that's it. Only the very best. Some of these track meets have thousands of kids, thousands of athletes. So how do you do that? Like if you're a coach, do you have an athlete? If you have an extra athlete that might not be racing, right? Do you have one of those athletes sit in for your athlete so that he or she can go warm up? That way they don't lose their spot in the corral, right? And then when they come back, they can do their drills and their strides. Because if you're sitting in this corral, you can't move, you can't do anything, right? It's not productive. But if you have somebody sitting there on his or her behalf, keeping their spot there, because some of these track meets do that. They keep you locked into this. And I noticed this in road races too. Once you locked into your barricade, you can't really move, right? And if you're sitting out there in the steaming heat or in the freezing cold, it's not productive, right? So how do you stay productive? So I'm great, and thank you for bringing that up, Multicone, because it's an important point, right? And is anybody else noticing that too? Is your warm up routine into your race different on cross country than it is on track? And is it similar on workout day, even run day, right? So these are the little things that I've picked up over 2 decades plus as a coach that showed you can really, really, really improve an athlete's performance, improve your performance, right? And I wanted to share this with you guys and gals and coaches. So anybody else have any questions about this? And how do you generally do your warm-up routines? What's the sequence? Like Multi-Kenny, how do you do it, right? Do you do a stretch and then a jog, or do you jog and then a stretch? How do you do it? 'Cause that's an important. And what kind of stretch do you do? Well, this is why I encourage folks to consider the active stretching routine. And again, for those that have any questions about it, I've got videos on this channel. I take you through a full routine myself. I do it myself. Okay. And I am certified by the Whartons in active isolated flexibility. I got certified in 1998. And I've been doing it every day for the last almost 3 decades. Okay. Religiously. Okay. And I've cut down on Charlie horses. I've been able to do. I mean, I got kicks up here. I do side splits and front splits and everything else in martial arts. And I do this before I go to the dojo, because the dojo has a lot of static stretching and mixed with dynamic warm-ups, which is in itself kind of counterintuitive, right? So I do this active stretch routine, make sure my body's all fired up and ready to go before I get on the mats. That way, it's easier for me to fire things up. And especially since I'm not 18 anymore, I want to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do, basically putting WD-40 on the muscles and the joints, lubricating them and getting them ready to fire up and do something fast, do something hard, whatever it might be. If I'm on the track running something fast, okay. And this is also a great stretch routine for sprinters who use a lot of those back end muscles, the glutes, your calves, your hamstrings, your push-off muscles. These are things you want to make sure you're stretching properly. And I take you to individual calf, hamstrings, hip flexors, okay, gluteus, the glutes, the IT bands, and everything else in there. Iliopsoas, the piriformis, right? And show you how to stretch every little component so that it complements the other components that you're trying to warm up as well, that you're trying to stretch. So there's a lot of times too, I've noticed that a lot of athletes will have, they feel good, but like their hip flexors are so stiff. Why? Well, how do you alleviate that? How do you work around the hip flexor to then get to the hip flexor, right? So how do you get to the lower hamstring, the upper calf, the lower calf, the soleus, heading into the Achilles? It's a different stretch pattern. It is, but all of them are important, right? So anybody else have any questions? Like I said, I wanted to keep it short and sweet because it is Father's Day. So, but the sequence of the stretch routine is critical. Okay. And I found it to be very, very, very significant when it comes to racing. Like I said, one of the differences between cross country and outdoor track is what? As the season progresses in cross country, the weather gets colder. As the season progresses in outdoor track, the weather gets warmer. Okay. So that will factor into your warm-up. It should factor into your warm-up routine, or your warm-up routine should factor into that. Okay. I encourage folks to stay out of the sun as much as they possibly can in the outdoor track season. Okay, stay shaded as much as they can. But it's easier to loosen up the muscles and get ready to fire up and run fast during outdoor track season than it is in cross country. October, November, the weather gets cool, especially November. The weather gets cold, especially in college running cross country regionals, conference, nationals. Cold. Then how do you make sure the body's warmed up properly? Right? That's why I go back to the sequence of the warm up routine. And then I ask coaches just to think about this. Is it similar on workout day than it is on race day? And Multi Kenny's already pointed out that it's different on track than it is in cross country because it's a good observation, right? How about the rest of you? Do you notice a difference between your warm ups and cross country and track, or workout and race, right? And again, if you have any questions about this, reach out to me, please, and take a look at the videos that I have on this channel in the live section, okay, which is this section here. Okay, active isolated flexibility, the best stretch warm routine. I've got one for the entire body, and then I've gone to take you through the foot and ankles and so on and so forth, which generally we need to have sometimes isolated attention to. Foot, ankle, okay, sometimes we roll ankles. You want to make sure that your calf's your Achilles, gastrocnemius, which is the head of the calf, okay, and the attachment behind your knee, which basically connects the calf to the hamstring. And then you work your way up to the glutes, right? And the lower back, and your hip flexors, your hips, piriformis. So adductors, abductors, these all matter. Not a lot of people think about these things, right? So I want you to think about these things. You stretch your hip flexors, it's going to help your ability to do what? Lift up your knees and accelerate on the flats and on the uphills. You stretch your glutes and your hamstrings and calves. So what's it going to do? It's going to help your ability to run faster, propel yourself moving forward. And as a distance runner, middle distance runner, when are you going to need to deploy that stuff? At the end of a race, not the beginning of it. As a sprinter, you need to deploy right out the blocks, right? So warm-up routines leading into this stuff is critical. So let me know if that makes sense, folks. Okay. I wanted to keep it, like I said, I wanted to keep it simple today and talk about this little thing. If I'm helping one person, then I'm a happy guy. Well, hopefully, we'll help a lot more than one person. So, but like I said, too, if you have any friends that you think might benefit from this, share this with them. Anybody here, if you enjoy the content and you're not subscribed, please hit the like and subscribe button too. I want to make sure you don't miss anything. I got about 600 videos on this channel. You could talk about any one of them if you'd like. Okay. And recently I've been going through updated versions of summer-based training for high school every year and the progression between each year. I did the same thing for college. Okay. And then I'm going to go over cross-country training programs for the fall. Okay. Whether you've had a good summer or not a good summer, because the approach to it is different based on what you do over the summer. And again, using the cross-country season should be, but isn't always, building off of what you did over the summer, not basically making up for what you didn't do over the summer. You can't really rush your fitness, cram fitness. Okay, you can race yourself into shape, yes, but you can also race yourself into injury too, and out of sharpness. So you have to be careful with that. You have to be very, very careful. Okay. Any other questions, gang, before I wrap this up? Multi-K, thank you as always for your questions. Appreciate yous. I'll leave it here for another minute or so. We'll wrap it up. You can go enjoy your Father's Day. Anybody else? And I hope you found this helpful. I just want to give you something to think about, right? This is something that's been significant for me, and I've had to modify old routines and factoring in the little things like the weather and the changes in weather can also work right into your own routines. Okay. It's not sexy details, but it's important details. And I hope people are considering this as coaches and athletes because it can go a long way. It can help you a long way. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining me. Have a great rest of your weekend. Happy Father's Day to all the dads. We'll be here next Sunday. Talk to you next time.